give you about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to begin with class. Make sure that you finish the do now. Minutes left. About 2 minutes left. Looks like most people are done. So let's go ahead and get started. So if you can find a nice stopping point in your work, if you're reading your independent reading book, go ahead and put your bookmark in it and shut the book, please. All right. And let's get started with a little bit of 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me.
1, 2, eyes on you.
All right. I had a couple people not looking. I know you're still finishing up some work, but I need you to take a pause. Make sure your eyes are forward. Make sure I have your attention. So let's do that again. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me.
1, 2, eyes on you.
Zach, need your eyes. Thank you. I see that I have Esteban's eyes. Very good. All right, great. What's up?
I like to cover the paper.
Oh, appreciate somebody added onto it. I noticed it, I was walking by, I was like, oh, somebody added a new book to me. In terms of what we're going to do today, we are going to go ahead and start with context clues. We're going to read some of the book that we're starting today. So we're starting with our new book today. For the rest of the week, just to give you an idea, tomorrow will be your book bingo, so you'll present on the book you're reading currently for independent reading. All right. The reason, again, we didn't do it yesterday was we were finishing up the unit test, so I want to make sure you have enough time for that. Tomorrow, or Thursday, we're going to get some time to work on the next book bingo and any missing work from your report cards that you got today. And then finally, we're going to keep on reading with the book, focusing on identity. Jose, you had your hand up before?
Today's when we do our book bingo, and then we work on it the day, and then we have our break.
Yeah, so this week, you're just going to present your book bingo, and then we're going to take a little break from book bingos, and then we're going to do it the week after. So you're not going to have time, or you're not going to need to have a book bingo ready for next week. All right? Adrian?
But we don't have school next week? Like, President's Day?
We'll probably move the book bingo to Tuesday. So, just like always, the first day of the week for the school week is when you usually present. This week's just been a little bit different due to the schedule. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the do now. The do now, again, was to think 2 or 3 strategies you would use if you weren't sure what the word means. All right, so I'm going to pick some kids randomly for this one. So let's go ahead and have Marissa. Marissa, what's one strategy that you wrote down that you can use? All right, so maybe looking at your notes to see what it might be. Next one, Flor, you're up.
If I couldn't do it, I'll go to the translate. If I know the word in Spanish, I could know the word in English.
Okay, so using Google Translate. Okay, very good. Let's do 2 more. This one's not here. Next one on my list is Esteban. Esteban, can you give me another strategy?
I use the dictionary.
All right, classic. Using the dictionary would be good. All right, and then let's do someone with their hand raised. I should see more hands than this. Everyone should have a strategy, right? Very good. See, this left side's doing really good on this. Let's see. There are a couple people over here already answered. I get that. Let's go with Maria, and then we're going to end with Danya.
No.
Maria.
2 strategies I use is like try to find the word in the book and read the word again. See if I can know what it is.
Okay, so rereading the word in the book. And then Danya, what were you going to say?
I don't think it's 2 strategies because the book has like the pictures and things. I remember it. Or it's like the word I don't understand. I just look the words around to see if that goes with it.
Very cool. And that last part, the one part where Danya said that we look at the words surrounding it, is actually what we're going to practice today. Okay? So for today's lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to work on context clues. And so I need everyone's eyes to make sure that you guys are listening. All right? Yvonne? Okay. So in terms of what you guys are going to be doing today, is we're going to work on context clues. It's a strategy that's going to help you whenever you don't know a word in a reading or on a test. And the way that we're going to use that is that we're going to use Rio Grande stories. We're going to look at some words that might be a little harder to understand, and you're going to use the words surrounding it to figure out what that word means. Okay? So by the end of the class, you guys are going to be able to use context clues to figure out the meaning of a word. So for today, your guided worksheet is already on your desk. You can make sure your name's on it, but in fact, could you hold it up so that way I know that everyone has it? So please hold it up. This is what you need to be holding up right now. I'm missing about 5 sheets. Missing 4, missing 3, 2. All right, great. Go ahead and put it back down. Make sure your name is on it. At the top, let's go with Luis. What does it say at the top, starting with student? Very good. So today's learning target, what you guys should be able to do by the end of class is on the board. It's up here. What I'd like you to do is write down. I'll be able to use context clues to find out the meaning of the word. So what I want you to write in that little square, that gray rectangle actually, is I will use context clues to find the meaning of the word. It's written up here as well. I will use context clues to find the meaning of the word. Where's it?
Where is it?
On the gray rectangle at the top of the sheet. I will use context clues to find the meaning of the word. Now the reason that context clues are so important is because we use them every day. Alright, when it comes to maybe reading someone's face, right? Maybe they might not say that they're angry, but you know that when they get angry, their face makes this little scrunched up face, their face gets all red, and you're like, alright, you might not have told me you were angry, but based on the clues around it, I can say you're angry. Alright? Or even in a book, sometimes we come across big words and we're like, I have no idea what that means. But by looking at what the paragraph was talking about, what the story was talking about, we can maybe figure it out. Now the reason context clues are going to be important for Rio Grande stories is that I really like this book because it deals with heritage. It deals with a whole bunch of stories about New Mexico. Things like lowriders, like are on the cover right here. Things like bizcochitos, alright, which I like to eat. Alright. In terms of this book's got a lot of cultural terms that we might not know. Alright, especially for me coming from Chicago, I don't know every word that's in this book. So we have to use our context clues to kind of understand it. Alright? So we're going to practice using this book, but you're going to use them all the time. Okay? So what I want to do next is what we're going to look at is we're going to try to figure out what the word magnetically attracted means. Is it going to be the one that we practice with? So before we start reading the book, what do you think the phrase magnetically attracted might mean? So it's okay to give a guess. Again, this school's about taking risks. What might the phrase magnetically attracted mean?
Ooh.
Alright. Now I see a couple hands up, but I want to make sure that I'm getting everyone, so I'm going to pick from my random assortment of students.
Okay. Yeah.
Alright, next, Yvonne. Yvonne, what might the phrase magnetically attracted mean?
It might mean probably to have attention to.
Alright, have attention to. Could you explain that a little bit more? What do you mean having attention to what?
Probably kind of
Not sure?
no.
Okay. Here's what we'll do. We're going to ask some other people. We're going to come back to you, okay? So that way we can maybe give another guess. Okay, go ahead, Jose. What do you think magnetically attracted might mean?
Attractive.
Alright, like attractive, like someone that looks attractive, someone that looks nice. Alright. Adrian, what do you think it might mean?
I think that, like, the thing what's that? Well, like, I think, like, it's, like, magnetically, like, every guy, like, likes her, and she's, like, really attracted to everyone.
Okay, so maybe it's something about physical attraction. Alright, but what if we weren't talking about physical attraction? What if we were talking about something that doesn't have to do with the way someone looks? What could magnetic...
It, like, kind of, like, pulls it over to them.
Okay.
To it. If we're talking about, like, a girl or something, like...
Read the story. So it's really important that you, for the first step, read the text. So we're going to practice reading the text in just a little bit. Alright? And what we really do is we're going to use the actual introduction and the first chapter to figure out what magnetically attracted might mean. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and open up your books to page VII, which is Roman numeral 5, and then 11, which means it's actually page 7. Alright? So go ahead and hold it up. You're going to see at the very top, it'll say, Welcome to Rio Grande Middle School. I like that Luis is already showing me that he's on the right page. So again, we're looking for Roman numeral VII, which is 7. So look for that page number. Hold it up when you're ready so that we know that everyone's ready. Again, we're going to read the text to figure out what the word means.
It's a heritage project.
We're going to talk about it in just a little bit. So we're looking for Welcome to Rio Grande Middle School is what it says at the top. Okay, Zach, could you hold it up so I know that you got it? Devon, you got it?
Yeah.
Make sure to hold it up, please. That way we know where you're at. Missing about 4 people's books in the air. Missing about 3 people's books. Thank you for helping her out. Appreciate it. Okay. So as always, we'll read this first one together. If I call your name, just pick up where everybody leaves off. All right? Welcome to Rio Grande Middle School. There are 2 things you should know about this unusual school. First, the school, the class, the students, and their teachers and parents are purely fictional. Can anybody remind me again, what does the word fictional mean? Yeah, we've said this before. Sophia?
Fake.
It means it's fake, it's made up, all right? So everyone that's in this book is made up, just kind of like with the connection to House on Mango Street. Those people were made up, they were based on real people, but it's fictional, all right? The young people from Native American, Hispanic, African American, and Anglo cultures exist only on these pages and in my imagination. All the events described in Rio Grande stories are my invention. Sophia, could you continue, please?
Second, since their original publication, these connected stories have inspired real students in real schools all over the United States to talk with family, friends, and neighbors and to write forever so they can put together their own book. These are uniquely different because the communities in which they live.
Very good. Let's go with Isaac. Could you continue on to the top, page 8.
This book reflection the places I've written about the cities, towns, and pueblitos pueblos and Mexico are known as the Rio Grande. The big river is the site such as imperial histories and cultural quote ancient and modern Native Americans who were here to begin the Spanish
Conquerors.
explorers and settlers, and the leaders, Angela, Hawaii, Spain, some people from the state.
Very good. Esteban, continue on, please.
I am one of those late arrivals, having lived all my life on the East Coast. I have never been to the Southwest before I drove to Taos in the spring of 1978. For a 2-month stay at a writer's colony, I decided then and there that New Mexico will be my home.
Very good. Luis.
In some ways, the stories of young people in Rio Grande City reflect my own. I struggled to enjoy eating, hearing,
Fiery.
chewing. I took Spanish lessons. I set out luminary at last time
Good.
and sang
Hymns.
in Spanish as Mary and Joseph made their journey from house to house.
Eventually, I settled in Albuquerque and married into a family with deep roots in Nuevo Mexico. I listened to their stories about Padre Martinez and about the hidden Jews, about the first black explorer, about the Navajo code talkers. My mother-in-law taught me how to make bizcochitos. I put down my roots. Maria?
Then life took an unexpected turn, and we moved to another part of the Southwest, the high plains of Texas, traveling to New Mexico as often as possible. After 5 years, we moved back to Albuquerque, but during that homesick period and away, I conceived the idea for Rio Grande stories. I'm home now for good. I hope and remain grateful to family and friends and to the many Rio Grande writers, poets, historians, and artists of all cultures who have given me insight right into this area, and enrich this diversity.
Very good. Remember, diversity means a lot of different ideas or cultures put together. All right? So let's go ahead and keep going. If you notice, the next part's the table of contents, so you know the chapters. Each one of these chapters is a different story. Kind of like with House on Mango Street, these stories can stand on their own. What do we call it again when a story can stand on its own inside of a book? Right? House on Mango Street was called this. It was a collection of what? I heard, oh. I should see more hands. We know about this. A collection of what? What were the stories that can stand on their own called? Okay, I'm going to call on someone I'm not sure if they got it. Jessica, what do you think it might be? Give it a guess. I'd rather you take a guess than not try. You don't know? Okay, I'm going to come back to you though, okay? Not off the hook yet. Daniel's going to help you. Daniel, what is it called? Vignettes. Very good. So what is it called? Vignettes. Vignettes, again, are a collection or are separate stories or chapters that can stand alone. So if I were to jump around in the book, House on Mango Street, or in Rio Grande stories, I wouldn't have to know the previous chapter to understand it. Okay? So very good. So it's vignettes. So if you look, each of these vignettes are written in the table of contents. Let's go past the table of contents, please. All right. And then we have the first page, page 1, called the Heritage Project. Okay? This whole book is about different stories from our cultures, right? Anyone that lives in New Mexico, these are the different ideas of what makes up our identity. Because that's something we're talking about this year. Who we are, where we come from, what we celebrate. So we're going to read this chapter 1, but as we're reading it, I need you to keep in mind wherever you see magnetically attracted, because we're going to see it in this chapter. So keep an ear out for that. Keep your eyes open for that. Marissa, go ahead and start us off, please. Oh, we're one page ahead. We're on page 1. Flourishes.
Heritage projects and graduate middle school. I was working for Bernalillo County, New Mexico, United States of America, Northern Hemisphere, planet Earth, solar system, and Milky Way.
Very good. Let's go with Adrian. Keep going.
At the first, Jeremy had not been at all pleased about taking a city bus clear across town every day to attend Rio Grande Middle School. Most of his friends were going to Jefferson this year. But after only 2 weeks of school, he was beginning to change his mind.
Very good. Yvonne.
It had been his mother's idea. When she heard that the old RG school at Stark Brick building with tall old-fashioned windows had been remodeled and was being turned into a progressive magnet school for talented kids with special programs like this Heritage Project. She couldn't wait to sign him up.
Sophia. So we're on paragraph 3 of page 2. Yeah, said Jeremy, still unconvinced. He wished he could get all that and be with his friends too. His father teased his mother about camping out at the school lawn in their sleeping bag, so she'd be the first in line to register Jeremy. It turned out not to be such a joke. She waited for hours, but she got him in. Very good. Angel.
So here he was, and Jeremy had to admit he kind of liked it, as his mother predicted. There were lots of kids in his seventh grade class who like him were magnetically attracted. His father's face.
from all over the city, as well as other kids who had grown up in this neighborhood near the river and had been at this school the year before. A small group of them had been accepted into the Heritage Project, a combination of history, geography, social studies, and language arts that counted at 3 classes. The idea was to develop individual study projects that showed how each student's family history fit into the history of the United States. Mr. Wilder, the teacher in charge of the program, seemed like a pretty reasonable guy. Jeremy thought he'd probably look better when his beard just started to grow and still ragged as an unmowed lawn got a little thicker.
Very good. So before we go any further, let's talk a little bit about why were the students coming to Rio Grande Middle School? What was the reasoning? So looking back at that chapter, or at least the beginning part of that chapter, why were kids wanting to go to this school? What made this school so special? I should see more hands than this. Why were these kids coming to the school? What made this school so special? And if you're not sure, look back at the text. Look for evidence. Why were these kids going to this school? See a few hands, but let's go ahead and pick random. Henry, you're up next. Why were these kids coming to school? All right, there was a program. Could you talk a little bit about the program?
Like, it told them, like, a bunch of things like science, history, and social, art, and also tell how the history of their families fit in the United States history.
Very good. So the big part was this idea that this school focused on the heritage, right? Where you come from, your background. What's your Mexican heritage? What's your African American heritage? Esteban, do you want to add to that at all?
Also, because the moms were making them.
Okay. So the moms were making them, at least in the case of Jeremy's mom. All right. How do we know that the mom was really for this school? What did the mom do, or what did they think the mom was going to do? The shows that she was really excited about this school. Yvonne?
She said that it was for kids that had talent or that had special like ability or something.
All right, very good. So she said this school was for kids that had talent or special ability. Okay. Let's do one more. Abby, I haven't heard from you.
She slept outside in her sleeping bag so she could register.
All right. So she didn't actually do that, but they said that she was so committed to the school, she thought she would do that. So that's true, that they thought she would sleep in a sleeping bag. Kind of like those people that stay out all night for Black Friday. You know, they camp outside Target so they can get the big plasma screens. They thought she would do that for this school because she thought it was that cool. All right? So what I want you to do right now, I'm going to give you about a minute, is if you look on your sheet, now that we've read what magnetically attracted the sentence for it, you'll see that there's a sentence right here. It starts with I predict. Go ahead and put your finger on that sentence so I know that you know what I'm talking about. Look for it on the worksheet. Look for I predict. All right? Magnetically attracted, I predict. Please point to it so I know that you know where it's at. Okay. I'm just missing a couple fingers, but again, point to predict. Good. All right. What I want you to do next for the next 2 minutes is I want you to fill in the blanks for that first part. I predict magnetically attracted means blank because blank. All right? So, even though we have not looked at the context clues really in depth, I want you to tell me what you think it might mean. All right? So to make sure we understand what I'm asking you to do, Jose, what am I asking you to do right now?
Write and predict. I mean, think what you think that predict magnetically means.
All right, very magnetically what?
Magnetically attracted.
Very good. So please write down what you think it means right now. So I'm going to give you about a minute. So go ahead and write it down. What you think it might mean. So in that section, write what you think it would mean and why. All right. Again, think about what we said during the beginning of class about what we thought it might mean, and write down what you think magnetically attracted might mean. and also why. Seconds left. You're still writing. What I'd like you to do is just wrap up those thoughts. Okay? And what I'd like you to do is, next to you, there should be someone nearby. So like Louise, you got, okay, these three in the back. What I want you to do in partners is I want you to look back over that paragraph about magnetically attracted. And I want you guys to reread that part of the phrase again. So reread that paragraph again. And try to think about what it might mean according to that text. So we talked a little bit about guesses, but I want you guys to do that in groups. To make sure we understand what I'm asking you to do, let's go with Zach. Zach, what am I asking you to do in this part?
So read the paragraph where it says it and then like try to figure out what it means.
Okay. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do that, so I'm going to put it on the clock. Make sure again you find your partner. If there are any questions about that. All right, go ahead and begin. So first reread the part of that passage and then guess.
No. It's not one away. Oh, we have to read it first. Okay, I'll read it. It had been his mother's idea when she heard that the old RG school, a stark brick building with fashion windows, had been remodeled and was being turned into a progressive magnet school for talented kids, especially programs like the American Project. She couldn't wait.
Look back at that passage.
I think it's like
I like the school I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna be the first nine to get accepted.
You should go through it though. Okay.
I didn't mean that. I think I just like small group of them had been accepted into the first class of foundation of history, geology, studies of nature. The idea was to develop a society project that would be attracted to the need of
It's not about physics. Students are allowed to go to school. Because you know most schools, you have to live in the school you go to.
I mean, like, one of the things, like, as his mother predicted,
3 minutes left.
lots of kids in his 7th grade class who, like, were magnetically attracted, in a whole lot of people were magnetically attracted, his father praised all of them.
They were like all like
2 minutes left.
Yeah, I'm going to put it.
Keep that in mind, because what we're going to ask you later is to write the definition. You guys about 1 more minute to wrap up.
It's okay.
page 3. What?
Whenever she's
Go back on page 3.
I'm reading it. I'm gonna call a poem on me.
No, you gotta read it all.
Conversation's beginning, so
Magnetic
wrap up.
checklist.
His father raised from all over the
She
city.
was.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me.
1, 2, eyes on you.
Meet everyone's eyes. Still missing 3 people. Missing 2 people still. Very good. So here's what I'd like to see happen, all right? Please go back to your original spots. Please put your notes back the way they were.
You didn't even get a finding.
All right, we're going to talk about it just a little bit. Make sure you go back to your original spot. I give you 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, so here's what we're going to do. On page 3, we stopped at thicker. Angel was the last one to read. Okay. We're going to finish off this chapter, and then we're going to go into what context clues do we see in this chapter to help us with magnetically attracted. So, Henry, could you continue reading on the bottom of page 3? Before we begin, let's make sure everyone's there. Can everyone please make sure to point to the paragraph starting with not everyone. That's what we're going to keep on going. We're almost done with this chapter. Again, it's on page 3. So, not everyone. Not everyone. Very good. All right, Henry, go ahead and take it away.
Not everyone at RG got into the Heritage Project. You had to be interviewed by Mr. Walker and to demonstrate awareness and interest in your family's history and culture. Jeremy told Mr. Walker about his great-grandfather who came from Russia a long time ago and made his life as a peddler, and about the peddler's son who opened a shoe store in Albuquerque and built it into a successful chain.
Very good. Abby, continue on, please.
The shoeman Jeremy's grandfather had 4 daughters but no son. After he died, 3 daughters took over the shoe business, but one, Leah wanted to be a social worker. Leah was the last one in the family to marry, and her sisters teased her about being an old maid. But then she met Albert
Steinberg.
a social worker from New Jersey who had waited a long time to find a wife. And they got married. Jeremy was their only child.
Very good. Eva.
My parents are pretty old and they made happy. I don't have any brothers or sisters. My parents told Mr. Wilder that he would sometimes bring letters to his parents when they had gray hair, and were always the oldest parents to show up at any school function. People often moved to him for his grandparents.
But he was pretty lucky, Jeremy explained. His other grandfather, his father's father, had moved out from New Jersey to a retirement home in Albuquerque after Grammy Steinberg had died 5 years earlier. A tall, stooped man with only a fringe of white hair circling his bald, freckled head. Gramp Steinberg seemed ancient to Jeremy. He leaned heavily on his cane, but there was nothing old about Gramp's mind. 84 years old, and he's remembered everything, Jeremy's father marveled. His brain's in better shape than mine. Not everyone had such an interesting grandfather. Flor?
Every Friday, his way home from work, Jeremy's father picked up Graham at the retirement home and brought him to their
Sabbath.
Sabbath. Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Now, meal.
Invariably.
Invariably insisted on a report from Jeremy on his
Very good. Marissa, keep going.
Hebrew was always his first question. Your study card should have been said, which is stretching the truth over. He was prepared for his bar mitzvah in the spring, but he didn't particularly enjoy those Hebrew lessons. Good for you. Sometimes girls would play Jeremy, asking him to recite the names of the months in Hebrew or to repeat a particular prayer. Jeremy was always relieved when his part was over.
And school? What about that, he'd ask, his bright eyes fixed on Jeremy. It's fine too, Graham. In these days, that was the truth. All right, let's stop there for now. What I want to do now is talk a little bit about the next step, all right? On your steps to finding your context clues, or to figuring out what a word means, the next step that I want you to write down is to identify, so write this down please, the words related to the word you don't know. Alright, and I'll say it again. I know I'm in the way. I'll get out of the way in just a second. Alright? The second step of finding out about what a word or phrase means is to look at the words surrounding it. So we read the next page after magnetically attracted. So that way we could get an idea of what it might mean. We've also talked about it as a group, so that way you guys know what it might mean. In terms of this story, what's attracting them to the school again? What's getting kids to go to this school? Henry talked about it already. What did Henry say was the reason that they were coming here? Adrian.
The Heritage Project.
Okay, the Heritage Project. Okay? So even if we don't know what the word heritage might mean, what are they talking about a lot about in this chapter? What is the main focus or the theme? Danya? Okay, Angel, you want to add to that at all?
Like your culture.
Okay, so you're both right? This idea that heritage and culture is a big part of this school, and it's a reason why a lot of these parents are getting their kids enrolled in this school. And again, this school doesn't actually exist. This is a fake school, right? They're just talking about heritage based on that. So,
Jefferson's a real school?
Yep.
I was about to go,
Adrian?
Jefferson's a real school.
Jefferson's a real school, that's true. There's a Rio Grande high school, right? Not a middle school, though. So, in terms of this is a fake school that they're talking about this. Now, look at page 2. Let's go back to page 2 a little bit. So, a little bit before you saw the word magnetically attracted. Okay? And we see in the second paragraph, and again, I want you to point at it so that way I know that you're on the spot. Page 2, paragraph 2. Alright? So could you hold it up and point to it so I know you're not lost? I know that we're jumping around in the book, but I want to make sure we know where we're at. Page 2, paragraph 2. It starts with the words, "It had been his mother's idea." Okay? Esteban, could you read that paragraph again for me, please?
It had been his mother's idea. When she heard that the old RG school, a stark brick building with tall, old-fashioned windows, had been remodeled and was being turned into a progressive magnet school for talented kids. With special new programs like this Heritage Project, she couldn't wait to sign him up.
Very good. All right. Looking at that sentence or looking at that paragraph, what helps us to figure out what magnetically attracted means? Is there anything in that paragraph that might help us to figure out what that phrase might mean? Okay, I'm getting a lot of the same hands, so I'm going to do this no card thing again. Baker's not here. Jessica. What is it in that sentence that might give us a clue as to what magnetically attracted might mean?
His molester set him up in his school and he saw that share.
Okay, so you could write down, and if you notice on your little worksheet, it says context clues for magnetically attracted are. So Jessica says one context clue is that mom signed him up for it, right? That she would wanted to do it, so you could write that down as an idea of a context clue. Is there anything else in that paragraph that kind of tells you what this school is that makes it magnetically attractive? That makes people magnetically attracted to it? Adrian?
That it's like it's getting remodeled and it's really like it's gonna be nicer than it was, and it's gonna be nicer than it used to be.
Okay, so you can write down that it's being remodeled, and so that's going to make it look nicer, it's going to make the facilities look new. I mean, look at what happened with the high school, right? South Valley Academy, they made this nice new facility, so maybe that might get more people to do it. So you could write down under another context clue that they remodeled it, so that might make it magnetically attractive. Yvonne, what do you think?
Well, it says, and was being turned into a progressive magnet school for talented kids with special programs like this Heritage Project.
I like that you found a sentence that has the word magnet in it. So even if we don't know what a magnet school is, based on that sentence, based on the context clues, Yvonne, what do you think a magnet school does?
Probably attract people to make their parents probably sign them up.
All right, that is so good. I want you to say it one more time because you are right. Could you say it one more time for me, please? What's a magnet school?
It's probably a school that make people get attracted to it and make their parents sign them up.
Very good. It's a school where you don't have to live in that neighborhood to be a part of it. It draws in students from all over the city. Okay? South Valley Academy, where you're at right now, can be considered a magnet school because we don't just take kids from the neighborhood. We take kids from all across Albuquerque. Sophia was saying, I don't live near where this school's at. I live downtown, right? That's an example of a magnet school because she doesn't have to live in the neighborhood to be at this school. So in terms of that, that is part of what makes South Valley Academy a part of a magnet school system. Go ahead. Yeah. So the idea is that we have made an agreement with the bus system that wherever you're at, you might be able to get picked up.
And if it's like actually in downtown, they have to wake up early.
Yeah, they'll have to get to the bus a little bit earlier, that's true. Okay? So here's what we're going to do next before we go on. I want you to at least identify one more sentence that might help you to figure out what magnetically attracted means. And I want you to write it into your context clues section. So you've already heard a couple of them, all right? I want you to write one more sentence to add to your list of clues as to what a magnetically attractive means, okay? So Louise, what do I want you to do right now for the next part? All right, find clues for magnetically attracted, and I want you to write it down on the part that says context clues for magnetically attracted, okay? Are there any questions about what I'm asking you to do? Adrian, do you have a question about what I'm asking you to do? I'll come over and talk to you in just a second. All right, I'm going to give you let's do 2 minutes. Find one more clue and write it down in here. What clues can you see for what magnetically attracted means? Excellent, by the way. Got about a minute left. Again, at least one context clue Or if you've already written some, at least one more. You guys are doing excellent, by the way. About 10 seconds left. So make sure that you're finishing up that thought, if you're still writing. Now we're going to go to the last step that you have to write down. Okay? So we've read the text, we've identified the phrase that we weren't sure about, we've looked at the clues surrounding it, and now the final step is to put it all together. The final step that you need to write down for step 3 is to make a connection. In other words, you're going to tell me what it means okay? So you're going to make sure that you're going to take your context clues and you're going to tell me what you think that word means. So go ahead and copy down this final step where it says step 3. Alright? For step 3, you're going to make a connection. You're going to tell me what you think it means now based on what you've read. So again, you're looking at step 3. You're going to write down, you're going to make a connection, you're going to tell me what it means. So again, these are the 3 steps that I've written on the board. I want you to copy those down so that way you have them to look at. Very good. So, the last one is to make a connection. You're going to see what it means. Now, based on what we read, we could see that it's a magnet school. It means that students are coming from miles around to go to this school. They're magnetically attracted. We know that magnets, right, have that property that allows them, depending on charge, to be attracted or repulsed away from something.
Wait.
Right? Go ahead, Zach.
What were we talking about the one where his dad said a magnet that made attracted?
So in terms of this, we're on the same one, right? And it starts right here, magnetically attracted.
I know. To make a connection.
Hey, what are you
2 minutes left. Find a different partner once you explain it. Maria, you know that one? You know what it is? You do it, Jose. Jose? 1 more minute.
Alright.
Make sure you're asking me talking about it.
Read the test. I can find the word related.
Something that is interesting.
30 seconds.
Also, his mom wanted to sign him up because it was being turned into a magnet school and into a magnet school.
30 seconds, start wrapping up. Alright, start heading back to your seats. Start heading back to your seats. 10 seconds. Thank you, Bria, for hustling. Appreciate that. Alright. Make sure we understand what the 3 steps are without this up on the board. Let's go with step number 1. Zach, give me the first step, please.
You have to read the text.
Alright, to read the text, right? You can't start looking for the word and understanding its meaning if you don't read the story. Danya, what's the second step?
Identify the word that is connected to the word.
Alright, so identify context clues, anything that's around it that might help you to figure out what the word means. And then what's the final step? Let's go with, you bet, what's the final step? Alright, what's that mean? So after you figured out, you read the word, you figured out what the word, you don't know this word, you've looked around at the clues to figure out what the word means, what's the final part? So what is that? I'm going to come back to you, okay? So make sure you listen to the answer. Abby, what am I asking you to do?
To tell you what it means.
So what's the last part? Tell me what it means. To make connection between the context clues and that word you weren't sure about. Alright? So here's what we're going to do for the next part. I'm going to have you guys work in groups of 2. Alright? And what you're going to do is you're going to read the chapter that comes after this chapter. It's called The Hidden Jews. It's on page... I have it written down, don't I? It's chapter...
I know. To make the connection. Hey, what are you holding?
2 minutes left. Find a different partner once you explain it. Maria, you know that one? You know what I said? You give Jose for a second, Jose? One more minute.
Alright.
Everybody's on this side.
I'm sure you're asking me to talk about it.
Read the text. Identify the words related.
Something that is interesting.
30 seconds.
Also, his mom wanted to sign him up because it was being turned into a magnet school, and it turned into a magnet school.
30 seconds. Start wrapping up. Alright, start heading back to your seats. Start heading back to your seats. 10 seconds. Thank you, Bria, for hustling. Appreciate that. Alright. Make sure we understand what the 3 steps are without this up on the board. Let's go with step number 1. Zach, give me the first step, please.
You have to read the text.
Alright, to read the text, right? You can't start looking for the word and understanding its meaning if you don't read the story. Danya, what's the second step?
Identify the word that is connected to the word.
Alright, so identify context clues, anything that's around it that might help you to figure out what the word means. And then what's the final step? Let's go with, you bet, what's the final step? Alright, what's that mean? So after you figured out, you read the word, you figured out what the word, you don't know this word, you've looked around at the clues to figure out what the word means, what's the final part? So what is that? I'm going to come back to you, okay? So make sure you listen to the answer. Abby, what am I asking you to do?
To tell you what it means.
So what's the last part? Tell me what it means. To make connection between the context clues and that word you weren't sure about. Alright? So here's what we're going to do for the next part. I'm going to have you guys work in groups of 2. Alright? And what you're going to do is you're going to read the chapter that comes after this chapter. It's called The Hidden Jews. It's on page... I have it written down, don't I? It's chapter...